Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Right now at 5, President Trump remains hospitalized this morning, but doctors say he could be sent back to the White House as early as today. We'll have the latest on what officials are saying about his recovery coming up.
Today, the Kern High School District will take up the issue of whether and when to bring students back on campus, as another local district starts that process this morning.
But as distance learning continues in most schools, concern is rising about student safety as we learn about a steep drop in child abuse reports in Kern. What districts are doing to try to make sure abused and neglected kids don't fall through the cracks. This is Monday, October 5th, 2020. And good morning, 5 a.m. Good to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen along with Alex Fisher. And this weekend was just so incredibly smoky. I was in really kind of every part of the county at one point. Up in the mountains in Tehachapi, here in Bakersfield, and then up in the Kern River Valley at one point. Everywhere you went, it was just blanketed in smoke.
Yeah, aren't you getting tired of it? Because It just feels like we can't get out of this. And unfortunately, we still have that air quality alert in effect. Let's take a look at your forecast, because once again, like Maddie just mentioned, we are dealing with all of that smoke. This is because of all the fires that are burning in northern and southern California. And until those fires are extinguished, we're going to continue to see this air quality alert in effect. Now, the one that is in effect right now lasts until 11 a.m. today. That is surely to be extended, and that all depends on all of these fires burning to the north and burning to the south. So please keep that in mind. Let's take a look at the current conditions right now. 72 degrees in Bakersfield. Very comfortable right now. And unfortunately, although the temperature is very comfortable, you probably shouldn't have those windows open right now because the air quality is still bad. So if you want to enjoy the temperatures, just get outside for just a moment, but that is about it. Taking a look at your hour by hour, and you can see we do warm things up today. It's going to be in the low 90s for the most part for a lot of areas on the valley floor. And taking a look at your mountain communities, and we're looking at 48 degrees in Tehachapi right now. And here's what you can expect over the next several hours. We're going to warm you up into the low to mid 80s. So it is going to feel a little bit like a summer day, if you will, especially since we're going to be dealing with that smoke and the 90s. But there is relief on the way. That is the good news. I'll explain coming up.
A man was killed after being run over by a vehicle in a McDonald's drive-thru. It happened last night around 10:30 at the McDonald's at the intersection of Coffee and Hageman Roads. Police say when they arrived, they found the man pinned under the vehicle in the drive-thru. According to the Bakersfield Police Department, the man who died had been lying in the drive-thru in the road, and the driver who ran him over says he didn't see him. The driver stayed on scene and cooperated with the investigation. Drugs and alcohol are not believed to be factors. The identity of the person who died has not been released. And a man's in what police described as critical condition after being shot in East Bakersfield. It happened just after 4 yesterday afternoon on Wood Street, just off Union Avenue between California and Brundage Lane. When officers arrived, they say they found the man lying in the middle of the road with a gunshot wound in his abdomen. Authorities rushed him to the hospital. The shooter's described as a Hispanic man in his 20s, seen leaving the scene with no shirt and green pants in a white sedan. If you have any information, police are still investigating, and they ask that you call them at 327-7111.
Now to the latest on an officer-involved shooting out in Mojave, with a witness saying it did not need to happen. The sheriff's office says the man who died on Friday night charged at a deputy before the shooting. KUSD says the deputy approached the man during a traffic stop. They had a conversation before the deputy returned to his car. Then the driver ran off a short distance to his car and reached inside. The suspect then charged at the deputy, forcing him to open fire, according to KUSD. However, a witness who was in the car at the time says the deputy had no reason to shoot the suspect.
I don't know what the sheriff told him that made him run back to the truck, and then when he said that everything was going to be okay, babe, and then he went to the sheriff, and then that's we just heard the gunshots. Yeah. But I don't know why, but there was no reason at all for him to shoot him.
The man was killed, and KUSD said they did find a gun. The deputy was not hurt.
5:05 is your time now. Education news this morning. The Kern High School District is set to hold a board meeting today to discuss whether kids should return to school. The board will vote on allowing small cohorts of students back into the classroom for in-person instruction. Last week, the Kernville Union School District tackled the same issue, ultimately announcing it will begin allowing students back today, starting with TK, kindergarten, and first grade students. The board meeting will not be open to the public because of the pandemic, but you can watch tonight at 5:30 via live stream on kernhigh.org. And while the coronavirus continues to put local sports on hold, some residents are calling for athletics to reopen across the Kern High School District. A demonstration to allow high school sports to take place is happening tonight at 6 on Sundale Avenue. Organizers say masks and social distancing are required. The demonstrators want the Kern High School District to lay out a plan for sports and activities to happen this year.
A local cemetery offered blessing services for furry friends this weekend.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.
Dozens came out this weekend to have their pets blessed by a reverend at Bakersfield's first pet cemetery, located at Greenlawn Memorial Park. Jim Lamar, the president of Greenlawn Funeral Homes, Cremations, and Cemeteries, holds an annual blessing of pets where a reverend dashes holy water onto people's pets and then prays over them. It all started after his wife passed away in 2012. He says his dog Casey was his sole comfort, but Casey had to be put down just months later. Lamar says the blessing of animals is a Christian tradition for the Feast of St. Francis, which is October 4th every year. Back now with an update on the wildfires burning across our state, and experts say wildfires have burned 4 million acres of the state, making this the most severe wildfire season in California's history. The Los Angeles Times reports the previous worst wildfire year was 2018, when fires covered roughly half as much as they do now. The destruction includes the largest fire in state history, the August Complex Fire, raging in the north, covering just short of 1 million acres, spanning 7 counties. It is 54% contained. A combination of dry weather, heat, and wind make it easier for fires to break out and quickly spread. All of this results into smoke blowing into the Central Valley, and it all gets trapped by our mountains, making the air unhealthy in Kern County on days like today. Experts say it is best to stay indoors as much as you can. Welcome back in sports news. Bakersfield's own Derek Carr set a new record for most touchdown passes in Raiders history. Carr and the Raiders went head-to-head with the Buffalo Bills yesterday. Carr threw for 2 touchdowns in the game to surpass Ken Stabler's record for most touchdown passes in franchise history. Carr now has 151 touchdown passes despite the record-breaking game. The Raiders weren't able to hold off against the Buffalo Bills and quarterback Josh Allen. Las Vegas fell 30-23, moving to a record 2-2 for this season. Around town, a local tradition is staying alive despite the coronavirus pandemic. The Greek festival had to be canceled this year, but that does not mean the food is going anywhere. They're still selling baklava and several of those Greek favorites at St. George Greek Orthodox Church on Truxton Avenue. Festival chairman Emmanuel Strategos says he is working in the oven all day to get chicken meals to a flood of hungry customers.
Well, every year we've done this festival since about the mid-1970s. It's usually a much bigger event than we're able to do today. We've been doing it certainly to support the church, but also to support our community and to share our culture with our community.
If you want to get your fill of Greek food, you can pre-order online. They're also taking walk-ins. This year's funds are going towards the church and California fire victims. The Greek Food Festival will be open each Saturday through October 28th. Lunch is served from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m., and then dinner is from 4 to 8. The Greyhound bus station in downtown Bakersfield is getting ready to punch its last ticket. The 62-year-old building has been sold, and the new owners plan to knock it down and build a 4-story apartment complex in its place. 17's Robert Price explains.
When this Greyhound bus station was built in 1958, Bakersfield was a different city, and interstate travel was a different animal. And now that Greyhound station has been sold for $1.27 million to Church Plaza LLC, which will demolish the old structure and build a 4-story apartment complex in its place as early as this spring. It's the latest and perhaps most dramatic evidence that downtown housing, a hallmark of revitalization in cities across the country, continues to gain traction in Bakersfield. The city manager's office has been interested in moving the bus station for at least 2 years, aware of the area's growing momentum as an entertainment and leisure attraction, with the Padre Hotel as its flagship. But Church Plaza LLC, which acquired the property in July, never consulted with the city on the purchase, according to company officer Darius Mojibi, who's working with his father, Majid Mojibi, president of San Joaquin Refining Company.
It's a neat location. Hopefully we can bring, something nice to downtown that Bakersfield can benefit from.
Greyhound has until the end of the year to move, with extensions possible if needed. But move where? To the Amtrak station a mile east. That's where. Other cities co-locate bus and rail because it's efficient and convenient, and that's the plan in Bakersfield. Perhaps with a staffed counter inside the Amtrak station, perhaps with just a digital kiosk. Ward 2 Councilman Andre Gonzalez says the move should help energize a section of the city that's already certain to get additional buzz from Bitwise, a workshare and technology company 2 blocks east. It's under construction now.
You want to create that 24-hour downtown, right, where things are happening at all hours of the day. Not just during the daytime where people are in their offices and coming to work, but also in the evenings and the weekends. You want that energy. You want people roaming the streets. You want people visiting, patronizing restaurants and bars and cafes and going to art galleries.
Where urban apartments and condos pop up, restaurants, bars, and boutiques thrive. They all play off each other, and the tax base surges to everyone's benefit. In 1958, when the Greyhound station was first built here, they used to roll up the sidewalks at 7 p.m. Things are different in Bakersfield now, and they continue to change. In downtown Bakersfield, Robert Price, 17 News.
KGET Business Watch is brought to you by Grapevine MSP Technology Services, the Valley's leading IT service provider.
Welcome back. 5:25 is your time now. Bumper stickers and car decals can be a fun way to reflect your personality, but they can also let people with less than good intentions prey on you and your family. Dan Scheneman has the story.
It's important to protect personal information, whether it's posted on social media or stuck to a car window.
I think putting it on social media, putting it on your car, we have so many means of taking that information and taking it further.
All those bumper stickers and window decals say something about the car's owner, and it may say too much.
Anything that you put on your car, on your house, out in the public, whether you think so or not, can be used for alternative messaging.
Cerise Peck, crime prevention specialist for the Richland Police Department, says something that seems innocuous, like a sticker about paddleboarding, may reveal more than it should.
There's a possibility that somebody is going to notice that paddleboard sticker, and they'll know that I have quite a bit of equipment at home. And it's the same with any hobby that you have.
And parents who like to put their child's accomplishments on the family car.
I'm so proud of you. I'm going to put your, sticker on the back of the car. But that kid, depending on age-appropriate conversation, needs to know that if somebody references that sticker or has that bit of information, that's a red flag.
Peck isn't urging everyone to peel those stickers off the bumper.
Just wanted to shine a different light on, what could be advertised by using those types of stickers.
Revealing too much to too many could open yourself and your family to be unsuspecting victims of a crime. Dan Scheneman, NBC News.
Making news around the nation, President Trump remains hospitalized this morning, but he could go home today. And I think we're going to give you a live look right now outside of Walter Reed Hospital this morning as we await news of when the president will be released and the latest update on his condition. Doctors say he's doing well after a scare over the weekend. Tracy Potts has the latest.
Maddie, good morning. Good morning, everyone from Walter Reed, where the president's doctors say he may be well enough to go back to the White House today, that his vital signs are stable. But outside doctors point out that the treatment the president's getting, it's not typical for someone who's doing well.
These are new pictures released late last night of President Trump working inside Walter Reed Hospital after a brief drive-by outside to thank supporters. Mr. President! Doctors say the president could be released today. A high fever and low oxygen levels over the weekend led doctors to give him oxygen and a steroid typically reserved for the sickest COVID-19 patients.
We're getting great reports from the doctors.
The president's condition vastly different from the mild symptoms reported Friday.
I was trying to reflect the upbeat attitude that the team, the president, that his course of illness has had, and in doing so, it came off that we were trying to hide something, which wasn't necessarily true.
Democrats are concerned the White House isn't telling the whole story.
When it comes to something as vital as this, the health of the president, the health of the people around him, we need to go the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
The White House trying to portray the image of a commander-in-chief still hard at work.
Secretary Pompeo, myself, will be giving him a national security brief this afternoon from the White House here. He'll be at Walter Reed, so we'll do it by secure video conference or secure phone.
He was very animated in our half-hour-long conversation, ready to get back out to the campaign trail.
But that's on hold as the world's most watched patient continues treatment.
Also, NBC has confirmed that in addition to the president's personal aide, 2 members of the White House resident staff tested positive for COVID-19 weeks ago. At Walter Reed, I'm Tracy Potts, 17 News.
Now to a look at the latest on the coronavirus here in Kern County. Public health officials reported 48 new cases with no new deaths yesterday. However, since Friday, we've learned of another 15 lives lost to this virus. Most of those deaths were from July and August. Just another indicator of how long it takes to confirm a coronavirus death. We've lost 386 people to this virus since the beginning of the pandemic in March here in Kern County. More than 32,000 people in Kern have caught the virus so far. More than 10,000 are currently recovering at home, and 65 are suffering more severe symptoms and being treated in a hospital. And we're waiting to learn this week if Kern County will be able to move out of the state's purple tier, meaning the most COVID-19 related restrictions. County Administrative Officer Ryan Alsop says Kern has been meeting requirements to be in the red tier since Wednesday. Moving into the red tier would allow restaurants, gyms, places of worship, and schools to open up for indoor activity. Health officials say the best way to help the county reopen is to get tested. There are places all around town you can get a free test. You can schedule one by calling 211 or go to kerncounty.com. You can also make an account on the website doineedacovid19test.com to find a test site and schedule an appointment. You can use that site to check your results from a previous test. And there is a free testing site today that will be set up at Larry Ryder Education Center on K Street. And then tomorrow there's another site at Plaza Towers on Wilson Road. You can go at any point during normal business hours. It just takes a few minutes of your time. And if you want to get in and out even quicker, just go to doineedacovid19test.com.
5:36 is your time now in your 17 Court Watch. Opening statements are expected today in the trial of a man and woman accused of killing a 2-month-old baby boy in Tehachapi. 29-year-old Matthew Norwood and 28-year-old Brittany Collins were charged with 2 felony counts each of assault on a child causing paralysis or a coma after the death of Abel James Norwood, who died from blunt head injuries in October last year. His death was ruled a homicide.
In a normal year, a decline in child abuse reports would be welcome news, but with kids at home and classes held virtually this year, the staggering drop-off in calls to child abuse hotlines has many advocates here in Kern County wondering how many more cases are going unnoticed. 17's Taylor Shout explains.
As the classroom shifted to the living room this past spring, Pam Hollywell with Kern County's Child Protective Services says there was a steep drop-off in child abuse and neglect reporting.
In April, we saw a pretty large drop from April 19 to April 2020. There was about a 66% drop.
Now, 7 months into virtual school, the numbers remain troubling. Double-digit declines, shining a spotlight on the role our teachers play.
Because the children were no longer in school, teachers didn't have access to the children, there was a drop in our referrals here as well as nationwide.
To combat the lack of in-person communication, she says teachers have been sent additional training and reminders on what to look for.
We provide mandated reporter training to the various school districts in Kern County.
This includes making sure students keep their cameras on at all times, so teachers can pay close attention to what's going on in the background and encourage students to directly message them at any time of the day.
Teachers are able to see things now
that they hadn't been able to when there wasn't virtual education going on.
Hollywell says she's encouraged by the added attention educators are paying to their children's environment.
Since school has started, even though it's virtually, we have had quite a bit of an uptick in referrals.
But she says it's our community's responsibility to make sure that every child at risk is reported to CPS during a time of remote learning, asking that relatives, neighbors, and fellow students reach out if they suspect physical, emotional, or sexual abuse to a child they know.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.